So this is our first podcast and we don't really know how to start it. So this is why it's a little awkward maybe in the beginning, but I'm sure we'll get used to talking. In today's episode, we thought we're just going to share a little bit about each of us, our journey to where we are now and how we came to start the podcast. And if you guys have any questions at the end, you can always email us or message us. Brooke, would you like to start with your story on your journey to where you are now?
A little bit about what got me where I am today is growing up, I was never taught how to process my emotions like most of us. I was shamed anytime I showed my emotion, which led me to suppress from an early age. The time high school came, I felt so behind. Everyone seemed like they knew what career they wanted, what college they wanted to go to, and all I knew is that I didn't want to go to college and I didn't want to work a 9 to 5. But I was feeling so behind because everyone else around me knew what they wanted to do and was so excited about it. And I ended up following the crowd and going to college, which led me down a path of self destruction, which I now know as self protection. I began to use drugs as a way to self protect from all the overwhelm I was feeling. I didn't know how to cope with the anger, the shame, the grief, the sadness that was being held within my body. I ended up having a non-fatal overdose, and this was my wake-up call that I couldn't live like this anymore and I wanted change. I ended up taking a courageous leap and moved from my hometown in Illinois to Florida. And before I left, my grandmother gave me some sage and some spiritual books and a few crystals. That kind of started the journey for me. And when I moved to Florida, I really began questioning what was my purpose here on earth? What was I meant to do? What career did I want to find? Something that really lit me up. And I began to get more into self development books, mindset, self awareness, really discovering and remembering who I was. And then in 2022, I ended up breaking my foot, and it was 6 months, and it still hadn't healed at all. I was seeing many different doctors. I was also experiencing a ton of imbalances within my body, and no one really seemed to know what the root was. So I decided to take my own approach and learn how to heal holistically on my own. This is when I really discovered that these imbalances and the way that my body wasn't healing was because of a lot of stuff that was stuck inside, like the stuck stress and the traumas and the emotions that were creating these imbalances that were affecting my body's ability to heal. And through all these different challenges that I went through, I really learned how to reconnect to myself and how to heal. And each challenge led to deeper healing and a deeper understanding of who I was. And that really led me to my journey today of becoming a somatic practitioner and helping others do the same.
Wow, that's really powerful. I didn't even know about some of the things you just shared. I had no idea you dealt with a lot of drugs back in the day. So that's a pretty intense wake up call, I'm sure. Yeah.
I feel like it's in those moments of super lows, at least for me, where I'm able to have that knowledge of I don't want to live like this anymore. Something needs to change. And for me, it's always been those lows that spark the most change.
It sounds like it. And then your broken foot, right? Seems like it was like another one of those where it really this time you really kind of took that as an opportunity. I mean, I guess it sounds like you did that both times, but the broken foot really led you to look into what could be the cause other than a normal Western approach.
Hmm.
Well, it's a broken foot, should be healing, take some drugs here.
Yeah,
And I love how your grandma gave you the spiritual books and crystals.
mhm.
It sounds like she played like a pretty big role then in your path to spirituality.
She really did. And looking back, it's something that I was always around, but never fully really got into it. There was always the angel books and the crystals and the shaman drums and the sage, but I never fully really understood what any of it was until I started my own journey.
I love that. Is she someone then who you could have conversations with about what you were reading in the books and things like that?
Yes, definitely.
That's really cool.
What about you? What started your whole journey? How did you get into all of this?
Well, I feel like there are so many different things that happened in life that were like little ones that sparked interest or made me look deeper into things. I've always been really interested looking back when I was a teenager. I know I was reading these books like Nostradamus. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was this guy who would like tell these prophecies. And I used to love watching all the witch shows. I know you're younger than me, but like, millennials probably will remember like, some of those. I don't know what they're all called in English because I'm actually from Germany, so I watched them in German with their American shows. So I was always interested more into, I guess, like paranormal, spiritual things. But also, I always had huge doubts about it. I was like, I don't know about if that's just a scam because, like, can't really
Mhm.
explain it with science, used to be my thing. And like you also, I never really knew what I wanted to do in life. I got married pretty young at 19 and went to the US to with my husband. And we lived on an army base. There wasn't much to do. So I tried out lots of different jobs. I did lifeguarding, I did veterinary services. I don't know, I feel like I've worked like so many different, used to do cigarette promotion, lots of different things that now I'm like, okay, I would never do that again. And I ended up going to college as well. It's not that college was never, it was always something I thought I'd probably do, but I never knew what I wanted to study. So I ended up studying business, then had a corporate job for a long time until 2022, which is when I left. When I became a mother in 2017 was another big wake up call where I looked at life differently because all of a sudden I had this child and my priorities shifted completely, and going to work, making money, which was what was really important to me before, just seemed like there's no purpose in it besides like, making the money to pay for things. And I really wanted to be with my daughter instead and do something that's meaningful. So I continued to work a few more years in my corporate job, but with every day, it felt like it's becoming more of a burden because I felt I'm just sitting on this computer doing computer work. I used to work in HR, so it's pretty boring stuff that I was doing. And it just felt so meaningless. Like I'm wasting my life. Not all of it, because I would still have time outside of work. And even at work, it could be meaningful in a way. But it felt like I'm not doing enough that's meaningful to me. And like there's so many hours in the day and out of my life that I'm spending doing something that I'm not enjoying, to
Mhm.
where I realized that I need to make some kind of shift and that I can't stay in that. And if I did, it just didn't feel good to me. Like it felt like that contraction that you can feel when you're like, thinking about or doing
Yes.
something that you're just not liking. And I, at the same time, around 2020, I discovered, or 2019, I discovered healing and healing with your mind, energetic healing, spiritual healing. And I started experimenting with some of those methods, like visualization, Reiki. And I also got a pendulum, started working with a pendulum and things like that. So that was kind of the beginning, and seeing results in self-healing or healing others was super powerful to me. And I followed that path and just like, learned as much as I could around about it and kept on practicing it and seeing results, to where I was like, this is actually what I want to do because this is meaningful. I can make a change in my life, but also in the life of others by helping them heal, helping them discover that we all have that potential within us to
Mhm.
do these things. And I've just followed that ever since and started my business in 2022 to offer healing Reiki and emotion code to others, as well as coaching and a few other things. So that's like a quick summary of how I got where I am now.
I love that. Did you live in Germany then before you met your husband?
Yeah, so I was born in Germany and
Okay,
lived
I didn't
there
know
until I was
that.
19. We met when he was stationed there and we met his first week in Germany. So he's American, was in the army and stationed in Germany. And like in Germany, you can go out and party pretty young. So when we were out at a bar, we met there.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And do you feel like the jobs that you worked before you made your transition over, do you feel like you learned any skills from those that you were able to bring into your coaching business?
I feel like everything in life, right, that we do is some kind of teaching or learning opportunity. So especially my corporate job, I felt like I learned a lot. I used to teach 7 habits of highly effective people there, which is basically a program where, if you're not familiar with it, there's a book about it, and then a lot of corporations have the program there. They train employees to teach it to the other employees, basically. And it's about like positive mindset, about being responsible, like with your choices, because like how your choices affect your life experience. So it's not just corporate focused, it's more like personally to where you can apply it. And I think that was like one of those really big wake up calls for me, to where I made a huge shift from seeing myself as a victim to like circumstances in life, to becoming responsible for what I choose to do, what I choose to think and believe, and how I choose to lead my life. So I think that was a really big one. And also when my daughter was born, I used to work full time, and I obviously didn't want to work at all, but financially we decided that I'd still work part time. And it wasn't really something that was normal at the company, or I think it's not in general in corporate America. So learning to stand up for myself and what I want, I was able to get part time. So I was really happy that I kind of stood up for myself and what I wanted. And they also let me work from home for a year, which was really nice. So I could only work when my daughter was napping or sleeping. So that was really a big lesson as well, to just stand up for me and what I want.
Yes, I love that. That is so powerful.
Thank you.
We never know if we can have what we want if we don't speak up for it.
I was thinking too, if we might want to share on here today how we met, you and me, and how this podcast
Yes.
came to be, since this is our first episode.
So we had met through, we both signed up for a coaching certification at Dharma Coaching Institute, and we both had met through there. And we can, after the program was done, we continued and did the business portion of the program. And we just continued to bond and share ideas and talk about all these different things. And the more we talked, we really realized that we had a lot in common and that we could talk about a ton of different things without any judgment or criticism, really just being so open-minded about it. And I don't know, is there anything you want to add into that?
No, I know how I feel, my experience of us getting along
Yeah.
and meeting. And I feel like there aren't that many people I stayed in touch with after the coaching certification. And there were quite a few, I feel like it was a few hundred people, right,
Yeah, I
during the
think
course.
around 300 people.
Yeah. There are only maybe a handful that I've stayed in touch with, but I feel like we chat quite a bit still. And really, like you said, that we're both pretty open-minded about different topics without judging. If you have a different viewpoint on something, or if I have a different viewpoint on something, I feel like we can still talk about things without being defensive or I don't know. I feel like that's pretty rare these days because a lot of people are so stuck in their beliefs and their opinions to where it almost seems like it so many times just ends up in shutting down or arguments. And I really like that you're open to just having a conversation regardless of if you agree or not.
Yes, exactly. And I'm just so glad that even after DCI, what has it been? 2 years now? Even
Yeah.
2 years later, we've still kept in touch and sharing all these different ideas and really just exploring spirituality together.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And I thought creating a podcast is a good way to share what's on our minds because we have pretty good conversations.
Mhm.
And sharing on Instagram, like this really can be really fun. And you can only share so much on there because it's really like short form, right? I don't think a lot of people go on Instagram and watch a 30-minute video because super annoying because you have to stay on the screen. You can't like do anything else on your phone. And then if it turns off, anyway, I feel like this is a good way to explore some of those topics that we talk about or that are on our mind and seem to be on other people's minds too. And just go a little bit deeper instead of just that superficial short form format to where we can actually talk about things a little bit longer.
Exactly. And we would love to have as many people join our conversations as possible. So if you hear something that we're talking about and you're interested or have a question or want to explore further, feel free to email us, feel free to reach out. And
Yeah, and we will be sharing all the links to how to reach out in the caption underneath this. So you can know where to find us, you can know where to email questions to, or even let us know if you have topic ideas of something you want us to talk about.